Welcome to part 6 of Technology versus God. Yet man chooses machine over Jesus. I want to get right on into this news.
A conference in Syria, Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov staunchly condemning Israeli operations in the country, and this a week after Israeli airstrikes hit Iranian-linked targets near Russian military bases on the Syrian Mediterranean coast. We have strongly condemned Israel's dangerous practices of strikes on Syrian territory, including the very disturbing episode of the attack on Damascus International Airport on June 10, followed by attacks on the port of Tartus. We demand that Israel respect the resolution of the UN Security Council and, above all, respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Syrian Arab Republic. Russia's rhetoric on Israel said to be reflective of the growing cracks in once warm relations between Jerusalem and Moscow. The initial fissures linked to Israel's support for Ukraine against Russia's ongoing invasion.
Israel plays a delicate balancing act with Russia, an adversary of Israel's main ally, the United States, a partner of Israel's main adversary, Iran, and an ally of Israel's neighbor under significant Iranian influence, Syria. And yet Russia and Israel had a good working relationship over the years, despite these challenges. But the war in Ukraine is putting significant strain on those ties.
Are y'all really paying attention to what's going on in the world around you? No, because the lamestream media reports lies and they control the narrative and they don't want you to know the truth. And y'all don't want to listen to those around you that will think outside the box. Hello? Spirit is outside the box. That's what I just said. The spirit is outside the box.
Particularly Russia's move to shut down the Jewish agency in the country. So, is Russia a friend or a foe? In a recent poll by the Israeli Russian language website news.ru.il, 49% of the over 4,700 respondents saw Russia as an enemy of Israel. 42% answered neither a friend nor an enemy, and only 6% considered Russia as a friend. The answers we received on the streets of Tel Aviv were varied. Other answers also centered around Russian.
What in the world is the poll for? I'm sorry, I fail to understand. What does it matter what the common man thinks? It doesn't change the written word of God. Nothing is going to change the written word of God. The outcome of that Bible will still be the same, no matter what you do. Jesus still wins. He still gets his kingdom. And the devil still loses. The devil falls, is cast out, is locked in chains. It doesn't matter what you think. What matters is what God and his angels know. What God tells his angels. What matters is that the angels are obedient to what God says above their own wants. Above their own wants. Are you faithful to God above your own wants? Maybe you say, God has placed a calling on my life, but I don't want to fulfill that calling. Because I don't want to be like other people. I don't want to be this and I don't want to be that. So don't be that. Be what the Lord himself tells you in your heart to be. Follow the word of God. Follow Jesus and be like him, not them.
President Vladimir Putin.
I think he might be an enemy of Israel. He is not a mentally stable person. He changes his behavior, and if once we thought that he would be a friend of Israel, he's not, in my opinion.
It's the same. He's running Russia now. He does whatever he wants. And especially for Jews, I don't think it's a good situation when Putin is in charge of Russia.
Ezekiel 38, 1 through 9. The word of
They don't think it's a good idea he is in charge. Apparently God did. I want to get on back into this word, and then I'll cover some more of the footage. This is John 6, verse 59. These things said he in the synagogue as he taught in Capernaum. Many therefore of his disciples, when they had heard this, said, "This is an hard saying. Who can hear it?" They didn't want to receive what he had just said to them, because they was thinking carnally, and they thought they were going to have to eat his body. When Jesus knew in himself his disciples murmured at it, he said unto them, "Doeth this offend you? What if ye shall see the Son of Man ascend up where he was before?" It is the Spirit that quickeneth the flesh. It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit, they are life. But there are some of you that believe not. For Jesus knew from the beginning who they were that believed not, and who should betray him. You see, he knew from the beginning, you all, that Judas was a thief, and he chose him yet to be the treasurer of the group, put him over their money, because he was testing him the whole time. He put him in the place in which he was to be in, for him to do the things which he needed to do. He knew what he would do, because he knew Judas loved money more than him. Do you love your money more than your Lord? Do you love your technology that they can track us with more than your Lord? Do you love your easy fixes more than your Lord? You have to choose this day whom you're going to serve. Him or them. Him or them. You might say, "Oh, it's not as simple as all that." But isn't it? Let's watch some more footage, and then I'll get back into some more of this word. We'll be picking up at verse 65 when I come back into the word, which will probably be in the next part. But let's watch more footage.
by undisputed dictators who could each very easily fit the Gog profile.
The United States is closing in on a deal with Iran over its nuclear program. Now the U.S. and the European Union are awaiting Iran's response, while Israel stands in very strong opposition to the agreement.
Well, the Israeli prime minister has denounced it as a bad deal that will give Iran over $100 billion a year to spread terror around the globe. Chris Mitchell brings us the latest.
Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid is still urging the U.S. and other nations to stay away from what he calls a bad deal.
It would give Iran $100 billion a year. This money will not build schools or hospitals. This is $100 billion a year that will be used to undermine stability in the Middle East and spread terror around the globe.
His remarks to foreign journalists came as both sides reported progress in the talks.
In our eyes, it does not meet the standards set by President Biden himself, preventing Iran from becoming a nuclear state.
Former Israeli ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, calls it a shameful moment.
When President Biden was elected, he said clearly that he will make sure that the new agreement will be stronger and longer. What we are seeing today is a weaker and shorter agreement that will actually allow Iran to continue with their nuclear ambitions. It will be dangerous for Israel and for the region.
The U.S. and other world.
Okay, how many things have we seen the 46 say? Uncle Bernie there. And then he did a somersault backflip on, and then went and done the very thing he said he wasn't going to. Just a question. I'm just asking. I mean, there's a lot of them though, right? Because this is how these people do. All of them. This is all a show they're putting on. It's all a show. They don't really care about what happens to you. They have their money and they know what they're going to do. They're trying to destroy the common man. They're trying to destroy the heirs to the throne.
Powers first signed a nuclear deal with Iran in 2015. 3 years later, then President Trump withdrew. Since then, Iran has openly broken the terms. 16 months ago, the EU began trying to revive the agreement.
They want to sign the agreement and to say we finished with that. But that's not the case. That's why together with our allies in the region, we will have to stand strong against Iran and prepare ourselves for every option.
Reserve Brigadier General Yossi Kupavasser says Russia, China, and Iran would benefit from such an agreement.
From a global point of view, this is a very dangerous development, because it means that all the three main powers that want to change the global order are making progress in their efforts because they understand that there is an American weakness.
Danon feels a deal would put Israel in a challenging position and believes the U.S. is taking advantage of Israel's political situation. With upcoming elections and what Danon calls an inexperienced leader, he believes the next government would need to do three things.
First is to isolate Iran. Second is to call for more sanctions. And third is to build our military capability. So if we will have to take care of this threat ourselves, we will have the means to do it.
Regarding Israel, does it put more pressure on Israel to attack Iran?
Very much so, and they have said that they're not party to this agreement. They have said that they will do whatever it takes to defend the Jewish state. And there's one thing that I think people need to understand, Andrew, and it's called the Begin Doctrine. Former Prime Minister Menachem Begin said they will not allow Iran or any of the neighbors of Israel to get a weapon of mass destruction. And I think that he did that in 1981 when he attacked the Iraqi nuclear reactor. Ehud Olmert did that in 2007. We'll see what Israel will do in 2022 or 2023 to prevent any neighbor like Iran getting a nuclear program,
See you in part 7.